What's it like living as a female expat in Asia? If I die suddenly with no family around me, who's going to take care of my body? And is the dating scene as bad as everybody says for expat females? Well, if those questions or anything about the expatriate experience are of interest to you, it is great to have you with me. My name is Wendy, and for more than 3 decades, I have lived and worked in 5 different countries in Asia, and I still live and work in Asia, now in Thailand. And today I want to talk about 10 topics that are going to keep you out of trouble when it comes to cultural norms and acceptable cultural customs. So I'm battling the wind a little bit today, so I'm holding onto the camera, so if it wobbles a little bit, I apologize. The first thing I want to talk about is monks, and especially touching or not touching monks. Now, this is the case in Thailand, in Laos, in Myanmar, and anywhere, Cambodia, where you're going to have a large monk community or a Buddhist belief system. You must not touch the monks. This goes for guys as well. You want to maybe shake their hand as you hand over some money, or want to tell them what a great job they're doing and tap them on the shoulder. No way, no way, no way. And for women, it extends to things like if you're getting onto a bus and there's only one seat available and you're a woman and you think, oh, I'll sit next to this guy here, he's a monk, that's okay. That's not okay. That is not okay. I have even seen it in what they call songtails in Thailand, which is like the public bus. They're a little bit jerky. A lot of people stand up in them. And I have seen women contort themselves, Thai women contort themselves to not bump into the monk when the bus stops suddenly, sort of swinging their arms around, trying to make sure that they don't make contact with a monk. So whatever you do, do not go touching a monk, whether you're a female or a male. And sometimes it can require a bit of choreography, I assure you, but it's really in your best interest to make sure that that doesn't happen. Speaking of things that are kind of related to Buddhism, your feet. Yes, your feet are disgusting, and they're probably not. I'm sure that they're clean, but you mustn't point at things with your feet. Certainly, and I have made this mistake myself, actually. I did point at something once with my feet and was told very promptly that that was not on. But it even counts to things like when you're sitting down and your feet might be pointing towards furniture or pointing at somebody. You have to actually think about where your feet are. Now, how does this feet thing cover things like a foot massage? Because if you came to Southeast Asia and you didn't have a foot massage, you're probably mental, because they're brilliant, right? And it's true. I actually work in an industry that involves, massage. I work in the wellness industry. And obviously, Thais give foot massages to foreigners and to other Thais. But there is some sort of, mental gymnastics that goes on around that. I don't actually know how that works internally inside the mind, but it's true that feet are considered unclean and you don't want to be pointing or pointing them at anybody in particular or at anything in particular. So just kind of be mindful as to where your feet are. One of the other things that is a little bit unusual, not from Thailand now, but actually in countries like Korea and Japan, did you know that if you write someone's name in red ink, it's actually a no-go? It's actually considered culturally insensitive. It has something to do with like you're writing their name in blood and it's like a curse or bad luck. So that's something I found out fairly recently, which I thought was really interesting. So that accounts to Korea and Japan. As I said, don't go writing anybody's name in red ink. Legally, I don't know how that works. How you have to use red ink for certain things, but there you are. Don't go cursing people even by accident. Here's one that will make you laugh, and especially if, like me, you've spent some time in Chinese communities or you've been to China. Blowing your nose in public. Now, you would think that this is, a much better idea, right? You've got a runny nose, you've got a cold, you're using a tissue, it's all very hygienic. Interestingly enough, in places where there are Chinese cultures, it is in fact impolite to blow your nose in public. And what happens? Sniffing. That explains all of the sniffing. You can sniff for 6 hours. Nobody bats an eyelid. The minute you pull a tissue out and blow your nose, all hell breaks loose culturally. So you'll also hear, everybody is familiar with the and the spitting, right? That has cut down a lot, especially SARS completely broke the back of that in Hong Kong. And after COVID, obviously, people are more aware. But interestingly enough, why do people sit there and instead of just blowing their nose? Because blowing your nose in public is rude, and sniffing not so much. So there you go. Now you know. And this one always gets me. And oh my gosh, for more than 3 decades, this has been my bête noire, as they say. Getting somebody to say no directly. It's all about saving face, right? It's all about creating harmony. And in certain cultures, especially in Asia and Southeast Asia as well, saying no directly is impolite or rude. So people will say yes, 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 but actually that yes is a no. And you have to kind of work it out. It can be incredibly frustrating. Sometimes it can be like beyond frustrating, can be annoying. The reason for it is not because they're indecisive, but because they don't want to hurt you. So maybe, or it's they want to maintain harmony. So maybe it's just easier to sort of say yes, but mean no. And this really plays with the Western mindset. I understand that. Okay, if somebody says maybe to you, so you ask, oh, can we do this thing, or will this happen? And they say maybe, that's a no. A maybe is a no. Okay, that's as close as you're going to get. So you just have to work through it. There is a kind of a, I don't know how to describe it. There's like a secret code, actually, that if you've lived in Asia for long enough, you tend to break the back of. And that's knowing which questions to ask. So if you keep getting yes and you think, this might be wrong, try and think about your questions and make sure that your questions are directed in such a way that if it is a no, but they're too polite to say no to you, you can actually get to the core of the matter. I think that's a whole video by itself, but it's an interesting difference. I've been in that situation 100,000 times. I've been in a meeting and I've thought, something's off here. I'm not getting a straight answer. So let me see if I can ask this question a different way so that I get an answer, whether I like it or not, an answer that I at least understand. That's another one. Another one here, this is interesting. This is basically also in Korea and Japan. It's interesting how they have a lot of like cultural similarities. But you mustn't pour your own drink. If you pour a drink for yourself, an alcoholic drink or any other drink for yourself, it's a sign that you've got no friends. That's kind of weird, isn't it? But it's true. Well, it's not true, but the cultural conception is true. So you're at a bar in Korea or Japan and you're sitting with somebody, pour that other person a drink and allow them to pour a drink for you. Don't go pouring yourself a drink. This actually kind of relates. I can understand this also in Thailand, which is not the same with drinks, but serving food. You know, people like to serve you food and they will serve you food. And Westerners, if we want to try something from a dish, we just kind of go in there, don't we? We're like, serve ourselves. That's also not on. It's kind of seen as socially awkward. So when it comes to pouring drinks in Korea and Japan, make sure you pour the drink for somebody else first and then put it down and allow somebody else to pour it for you. And that shows that you're not knobby no mates. You've actually got some social graces there. Such a weird one, but there it is. All right, another one, and I've talked about this before in another video, actually pointing. Now I do it, you know, and I know that I do it. Sometimes I have to be super, super careful not to point at things and certainly not to point at people. I did mention in another video, which I can link down below, about in Malaysia how they deal with that is they use their thumb to point. But as I pointed out, my thumbs are a bit bendy, so that makes things a little bit awkward if it's over there or over there. You have to work out where your thumb bends. But pointing with your finger, pointing at somebody, incredibly rude. Even pointing at things. You'll often see people point with their hands, a flat hand like that. So keep that one in mind. If you need to go in a direction, instead of going in a direction over there, you might go in a direction over there. That's how it's done. Another one, okay, public affection or public displays of affection, PDAs. You would think in countries where it seems to be quite sort of sexually open, I'm going to put it that way, like in Thailand, you know, there's thoughts around that actually in Asia, giving someone a snog on the bus is akin to having outright nookie with them in a public space. Don't do it. Even holding hands, people who've been together for 20 years, they won't hold hands in public. So the PDAs that we're quite used to, grabbing somebody and giving them a kiss, is not okay in Asia. It's absolutely not okay, and you're going to find yourself embarrassed. You're going to be embarrassing other people. I think I'm blushing as I tell you now. So just be super, super aware. I know you're on holiday, you're with your best bud, and you've found a really romantic spot, and you grab them and you give them a big hug and a big tonguey kiss. Bow bow. Everybody else around you who is Asian is dying internally while you do that. So just don't do it. And in particularly in like super, religiously conservative places like Islamic places, parts of Malaysia or in Indonesia, you can actually find yourself in some serious trouble. I certainly wouldn't do that in the Middle East. Good Lord. So just be aware and please be careful. Alrighty. Business cards. You must have seen this. I'm sure that you have. Somebody in a movie or something hands somebody a business card. And these are considered absolutely sacred things. These are sacred documents. And you'll see there's a lot of time. I do it now. If somebody gives me their business card, I stop and I read it very carefully. I read a line and I look up and, nod and do this kind of thing and take it very, very seriously. It does sometimes happen in the West. People do still use business cards, believe it or not, and you kind of take it and say, oh, thanks, and then put it in your pocket. No. Spend a lot more time investing in the seriousness of the situation. It's a special thing you've been given. It's a contact. It's considered, quite important. So take your time to read it, treat it very sensibly and very seriously, and give it high regard, because that's how it's seen in Asia. Alrighty. Oh, one more. Sorry, I nearly forgot this one. And this one will make you giggle, because if you've spent any time in Asia at all, or if you haven't and you're planning to come, this is one thing that is really relevant and super important, and that is around food and refusing food. Now, this happens to me daily. It happens to me daily where I work, all right? If somebody offers you some food, even if it's something that you don't particularly want, you've never really tried before, or you're not particularly hungry, or you're on a diet, you don't want to eat that, you can try and refuse. You can say, oh, thank you. No, I'm okay, thank you. And you can kind of try and knock it away. That's not going to work. You're going to end up eating it anyway. Just take it, all right? Even if it's something that you're not really sure that you eat. I mean, they're not trying to harm you in any way, but sharing food is a real sign that somebody likes you. It's part of the generosity of Asian cultures, and it's actually quite delightful. But I have been in that situation where I'm like, oh, wow, this random thing that smells, honestly, like a dog's butt and is a funny color, might even be moving. Do I want to eat this? And so you can, well, I'm full, and in the end, just take it. And if you think you can, if it's a small thing and you think you can just pop it in your mouth and swallow it, just do it. All right, it's much kinder, it's much nicer, and it's given with with love and respect. And even if you don't really want to do that, you might just have to take one for the team there. So lots of stuff around food. It's the same when you get served, like, and I work with Thais, and I see how they deal with it. And they'll still take just a little bit, even just a half a mouthful, even if they don't really want it. I can see that they sort of struggle with it, but they don't outright refuse the food. If somebody offers you food, you can take it and keep it for later, and maybe gift it to somebody else who might appreciate it. I don't know. Anyway, that's some things that you need to think about with culture. It's all, serious stuff in its own way, but meant to be handled lightly, like a lot of things in Asia, and particularly Southeast Asia. Think lightly all the time. Don't overthink these things, and make sure that your time in Asia is spent joyously and happily. I hope that helps. If you've got any comments, or you've had any experiences around some of these, if there's other cultural things that you've done that you've gone like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that, do please leave a comment down below. Share and like as well for this video. That really helps the algorithm. If you've been doing that and commenting, thank you so much. The channel is growing and growing, and it's all down to great people like you. I really appreciate it. Have yourself a great day, and I'll speak to you again soon. And yay, the camera didn't fall over because of the wind. Have a good one. Bye.